Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Heart Space podcast. I am your host, Leela Dilla. This podcast was created from my personal desire to have meaningful conversations with humans that inspire my heart. On today's episode, I have the honor of speaking with Dr. Jeremy Goldberg, who is a dear friend of mine, a co-teacher, life coach, inspired writer, and a connoisseur of life in many ways. During our chat today, we talk about cultivating presence, an optimistic perspective on life. We talk about rock bottom and the lessons that can come from honoring our time there. We talk about darkness, challenges, and cover a whole bunch of things that you can start doing and stop doing immediately in order to live a happier, more meaningful life. Jeremy and I are co-hosting an in-person retreat with our dear friend Trevor Boehm this winter. We'll be in Costa Rica together from December 27th to January 3rd. If you'd like to join us and come nourish yourself from the inside out and come hang with the three of us, we guarantee we will change your life. There are more spots available, so please check it out. You can visit my website, leeladilla.com/the-unfolding.com to register. Thank you for being here and listening. I hope you enjoy. All right, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg.
Yeah.
You're here.
Here I am. Yep, here I am.
On the Heart Space podcast. Long distance.
Yeah, you just dropped that I'm the first one ever. And now I have a twinge of nerves that I don't screw this up and burn your podcast to the ground.
I have a feeling you're going to do a great job launching it into where it needs to go. So I appreciate you being here.
I'm stoked. I'm really excited. I mean, it's always an honor to see you and chat with you. So this is super fun. And I'm glad that you've started a podcast because you have a powerful voice that the world needs and craves. And I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Thanks. I felt honored to be on yours a couple of years ago. And I remember you just like, I'm doing a podcast. And then that being such a cool resource for me in my life and so many people. So you're an inspiration, man, in so many ways.
I mean, I wish that it was like that. But what ended up happening was I desired to do a podcast for like a month. And I talked about it and I procrastinated and I distracted and I convinced myself nobody will ever listen. And why would I do that? And then our mutual bald friend, Trevor Boehm, mailed me a microphone and said, start your fucking podcast. And then the microphone sat on my desk for about a month and I stared at it.
I can't wait to talk on that.
But then I started and yeah. Now I've done 130 episodes, I think.
Wow, that's awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I think actually you were the one who told me which mic to buy probably a year and a half ago. So I've been staring at that sucker for a while. It's made my Zoom classes a lot better audio version, but the podcast is finally here.
What have you been waiting for?
I think I've been making the excuse that I didn't have enough time and just like pouring my energy into other avenues. But when I really think about it, podcasts are such a cool resource. They've been like such an educational tool for me for years. Like a lot of the people that I look up to have them. And then other people that I begin looking up to and being inspired by are guests on other people's podcasts. And I've always been so honored when I'm asked to be on them. So they've been like hovering around my orbit. Like, just, I'm going to do that eventually, which I think is with all like things we want to dive into. We're like, that's going to be good when I finally catch it and do it. So I just I think Trevor also said like, I mean, just fucking do it. And what are you waiting for? He's pretty good at just like dropping the hammer from time to time. So
yeah, like for me, I think I had created a story in my brain about what it meant to start and do a podcast that was complex and difficult and hard. It is hard. And actually, it's really not. You just have to learn maybe 2 or 3 things that are quite simple. And away you go, right? Yeah. And so I think like anything in life, we often concoct these really elaborate, very rational stories in our brains. And then the reality is, in my experience, oftentimes quite different.
Yeah.
Actually try to do the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right.
I think that's a huge hiccup for most of us. I mean, even when we started this, I was like, how will I ever get our videos to be in the appropriate place? And all I had to do was drag the screen over to the right a little bit. And it was like, oh, problem solved.
Yep. You already learned something for next time.
Done. See? Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, we could dive into that. Jeremy, I want to know who you are, but more importantly, I want to know what you care about.
Oh, that's a good question. I actually just this morning was texting a buddy who I think might be on your podcast, Sly McNutt.
Yeah.
And I said that yesterday I was talking to my coach and we were talking about life and my business and what I really want to do in the world. And eventually we got to this place that like cracked me open inside. And so what I care about right now in this moment, professionally at least, is I care about this book that I'm writing. And I care so much that it's sort of overwhelming and I don't let myself feel those things. And I care so much that I'm terrified of how it's going to go and how it's going to be received. And I care so much that I'm worried that I won't be able to pull it off in the way that I really desire. So yeah, I guess that's a way of suggesting that I care about getting my heart out into the world using my words in a way that is meaningful to me, in a way that feels like it's my best.
Yeah.
So that's professionally. Personally, I care about many of the same things that you and everyone else care about. I care about the trees. Like, I care about my family. I care very deeply about the state of the world. I care about hot tea. I care about maximizing my time while I'm on this weird spinning rock. Like, I care about what I'm going to think on my deathbed. I care about, looking back on my life and wondering if I squeezed every drop out of my potential and that I experienced what I was here to do. Right.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's that. Who am I? The standard answer I give when I'm giving talks and keynotes and such is that I am a compassion cultivating, day making change agent. I am an anti-quitting word wizard. I'm an empathy collecting, ferocious, never give a upper. I'm a love bombing kindness pirate. I am a life coach, podcast host, spoken word poet. I'm a recovering scientist. My name is Dr. Jeremy Goldberg, and my mission is to make kindness cool and compassion popular.
Ooh, that's pretty nice. That sounded good.
It's pretty slippery, right?
Yeah, it's like a kind of to dance to when you hear it, like each one just kind of, ooh.
Yeah, dropping beats in the introduction.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Beautiful. My one of the questions I was going to ask you is what you're going to care about on your deathbed.
Oh.
So I love that you said that, because that's definitely something that I ponder and have people in my sphere ponder as well, because I feel like so much of our world nowadays is surface living, and we haven't really faced the reality of our temporary existence. And I think that superficiality oftentimes keeps us disconnected from what we really came here to do, and more worried about what others think of us instead of our own like purposeful drive. And pondering that question really makes me think, like, if it's not going to matter then, like, why does it matter now? Like, and how can I orient my daily activities in my life towards really honing in on those couple things that are going to draw the juice out of my life and make my life meaningful for others too.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So I've been thinking a lot about death, actually. And that's such a weird thing to say.
It is, but it's
I often ponder my demise, Leela. And but so there's this wonderful thinker named Stephen Jenkinson,
Hmm.
who I've had on my podcast, and he wrote a book called Die Wise,
I
which
think
is
Trevor might have just had him on for the Nation or something. He just mentioned him last.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, he's incredible, and he was in the death trade, as he describes it, for I think 20 years or so, many years. He sat at the deathbed of 800 to 1,000 people. He was in palliative care, however you say that.
Okay.
And at some point he talks about this idea of, if you really knew that you were going to die, like we all know that,
Yeah.
like we're all living beings and we know that we're going to die. But his suggestion or his assertion to ponder is, if you really knew that you were going to die, like how would you live, right? If you really knew, like if you knew in your bones that this could end at any time, like we all know that, but I don't think that we all live in that way, right? And so I think it's an interesting idea to ponder, right? Of like, what would change? What would change in your relationships? What would change in your day-to-day experiences? What would you do more of? What would you do less of, right? And also, I think it's very inspiring to consider that you're going to die, because nothing matters, right? So there's kind of two tracks that you could take: is nothing matters, why do anything? Yeah. Or nothing matters, holy shit, I can do anything that I want, right?
Yep.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. We're all going to be forgotten, right? As Conan O'Brien suggests, eventually all of our graves go unattended. And so from that perspective, fuck it, bucket, Hey, I want to do this. Fuck it. I'm going to try it. Hey, I want to say that. Fuck it. I'm going to try it. Hey, I want to take risks. I want to have adventures. I want to prioritize myself. I want to say what I want out in this relationship. I want to speak up and use my voice about how I think things are and could be and should be. Fuck it. I'm going to die one day. And, another potential angle of that is really presence practice, right? Which to me is what meditation is, or totally. Boredom practice.
Right.
Whereby, man, this could go at any time, right? So I'm looking out over my screen, there's a window, and I mentioned these trees before we started recording. Like, wow, the trees are changing color, and like they're alive and they're changing, and like how we are each perpetually surrounded by light and life and love and beauty. Like there is an overwhelming amount of beauty on this fucking planet that I neglect to witness because I'm so worried about the past or the future. And when I can really embody this idea that death is coming for me on any given moment, on any given day, that is unpredictable, I think it allows me or presents me with permission to just sit and bear witness to all of this extravagance that surrounds me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I remember every time I sit at a waterfall, kind of a random tangent, I'm reminded of how there's always waterfalls running, flowing, blasting down. Like, and until you sit at one, at least for me, I didn't realize how powerful they were. And then it made me like zoom out and think, wow, there's so much really happening here. And my little microscopic perspective of life is so tiny. And then I want like specific outcomes based on that tiny little microscope that I'm perceiving the world as, and how much is really going on here. And the cultivation of presence, I love that you said that, because pretty much anything that we want to cultivate or pursue or be part of, if we want to engage with that wisely, we have to become present first, so that we actually know we don't miss an opportunity, so that we're actually enjoying the full thing. It makes me kind of circle back to your first point about how much you care about this book you're writing, and how in order to really even care that much, I think it requires a sustained, or an ability to sustain presence, to elongate a feeling, or to actually bear witness to that, was another word that you used, of like just bearing witness to life itself in front of us can be almost overwhelming to notice the amount of beauty, or it is so easy to put blinders on and just be flying through life. But if we actually became bored and became or practice presence until it felt natural for us to be present. I don't know where I'm going with that. I think I'm going with like presence allows us to stretch out and care more. And I think if we're present and caring more, our world would be very different. Just like imagine just careful, present people, not careful as in like timid, but full of care and present. Like the amount of things that would be different. I know from when I lived my life not present and not full of care towards that's what I strive for now. My entire life has shifted. Everything has upgraded. My relationships have got better and expanded in all different directions. I'm friends with people I have no idea that I'd be friends with. I do things for work that I had no idea I do. I travel to places. I enjoy things. I can care so much that it breaks my heart open and be able to stay in that and withstand that kind of feeling until it actually motivates a genuine change in my life, inspires me to be better and bigger and do something different, which is a big fear for all of us. Like, what will people think if I actually do what I want with my life? And I'm not going to be thinking that on my deathbed. I'm going to be wishing I did do what I wanted or what I was genuinely inspired to do. What do you think or what has it been for you, like your presence practice? I won't say meditation because I do think, presence is a foundational key and actually really what we're trying to cultivate when we meditate anyway. What do you do for that? How have you learned that?
So I meditate. That's kind of my main squeeze, the breath and I. Mm-hmm. We have a courtship that goes way back. So I just find that when I am regularly dropping in and practicing presence, which is, I use that phrase intentionally because when I meditate, it's a real powerful opportunity to observe the schizophrenic monkey that is just bopping around my brain nonstop. And so observing where that monkey takes me and then going back to my breath is me practicing that presence of like, no, back to here, bro, like back to this, back to now. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, good job. Be like, yeah, back to breathing. And so I find that to be really helpful. And then years ago, I was in Bali, running a retreat in Bali, and we had this like palm reader, kind of sorceress, enchanted witch come to the retreats and like read everybody's palms.
Nice.
And you would know these people. They're just different in a really powerful way of like, they're just on another level of some kind. And she was kind of like that. And so she like reads my palm, and then I'd asked her about meditation. I think we had talked about it afterwards, and with these kind of whimsical, witchy eyes, I asked her like, when, how often do you meditate? Like, what's your practice? And she's like, all the time. Like, I meditate when I'm driving my motorbike down the road. Like, I'm always meditating. I had this kind of realization of like, oh shit, yeah, good one. Like, yeah,
that should help.
That's a really good point. And how that potentially could be a very different intention than what I use it for, which is, sit for an hour in the morning or half an hour or whatever, and just try to practice versus creating your lived experience as a daily devotion to presence, which is what she was suggesting. Mm-hmm. And that when you get in that place, in that flow, as you were alluding to, that's like the magic just starts sizzling, right? That's things happen, and insights are realized, and ideas are incubated, so to speak. And so, that's a big one for me in terms of presence. And I don't know, I play little games with myself. Like, I go on a lot of walks. If you've seen my Instagram, I'm a big fan of nature. I'm a big fan of wildlife. And I kind of try to treat life as if it's a scavenger hunt or a treasure hunt, in a way of just paying more attention to my surroundings. And when I treat it like a little hunt of some kind, I try to notice things. Like I'll notice bugs, I'll notice flowers, I'll notice animals, I'll notice colors. And as my buddy Pete Longworth suggests, like to notice the texture and the light and the shapes. And it just helps me. It's kind of like a hack for me to pay closer attention to what's going on. So I do that.
Love that.
Those
I
are
do
big
that
ones.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the natural world is such an easy way for me to become captivated again by just the simplicity of what's actually here. Because it's actually not simple, but it seems so unentertaining at first to just go, sit in the yard or something, or just go on a simple walk. But it's definitely one of my practices. I just walk with my dog, and I usually go barefoot, and I'm not walking to go somewhere. I'm just simply walking to walk and to be with the earth, and to kind of watch my dog notice shit that I wouldn't notice. And I'm like, well, let's be here for a minute. Okay, we're gonna go be here for a minute, and watch my like conditioned tendency to want to like go quicker or think about something elsewhere, and just come back to breath and motion at one time, which is technically what yoga is, but that's what presence is, to be able to just move and connect with where we came from, which is the earth, the ground, the flowers, the textures. I love that you said that. The light. There's so much there if we just slow down enough to pay attention.
Yeah, another one that I learned when I was in high school. I used to work at a preschool. My mom was a preschool teacher, and like in the summer, I would go and help out at the preschool. And if you've ever been around a toddler, they are tremendously enlightening creatures. Like toddlers are present, like they're in it, right?
Activated, yeah.
They don't give a shit about what you think about the size of their thighs, or what's going on for dinner, or how their life is going to unfold. Like toddlers are just whimsical little gurus, right? And so if you sit and observe how a toddler or a child experiences the world, it's very different than how adults tend to, right? We're often, as adults, short on time, or we're concerned about the time, or we're checking our phone, and we're bored, and we're worried and anxious. And little kids and toddlers, when they're in the flow, like they're just there. And toddlers, especially when they're discovering the world, they pick something up, they play with it, they shove it in their mouth, they shake it up, they throw it, they find their way underneath the couch. Like they'll discover things in your house that you didn't even know were there. It's like, where did you even find that fucking pink elephant? Like, what? How did you? Right. And so I think that we can like cultivate that sort of childlike whimsy in ourselves, because we're all grown-up kids trying to figure this thing out. Really? And I find that when I'm more childlike, when I have a little bit of a twinkle in my eye, and I'm a little bit mischievous and playful, and I'm trying to have some fun, trying to explore, then like that energy is infectious, but it's also empowering. Like it feels good to operate in that kind of a place.
I love it. It's like anything's possible.
Yeah.
Actually, talk about caring about tea. My yogi tea last night told me that the unknown is where all outcomes are possible. Enter it with grace. And I saved it on my desk today, because at that point we aren't limited. When we're young, everything's fucking new and expansive and cool. We're just interested in dirt, interested in
totally anything. Like ask a little kid, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a fucking fireman. Like that Simpsons character wanted to be a pirate ship. Like, I want to be a pirate ship when I grow up. It's like, the sky is the limit, And all of that is taught out of us by a series of systems that squeezes our little square peg souls into like the round and triangular shaped societies, cultures, and families and occupations and all the rest. And so I think it is a very intentional craft to rediscover and reclaim that childlike nature, or that inner knowing, right? That we used to have. think that becomes the work for a lot of us.
Totally. Yeah. Even just like reflecting on that, just like sitting with that. Like, what did you like to do when you were younger? Even just visualizing like a young version of yourself, like, what the hell was I doing before I started thinking about what other people thought about what I was doing? And then just incorporate a little bit of that back, like before I was worried about what, people's criticisms or judgments or expectations, which are oftentimes how we gear our choices in our life. It's based on social approval and not wanting to be rejected for our deepest desires. When we're young, it's all desire. It's just where is my heart leading me next? And we typically follow that. There's definitely some golden nuggets to returning to that child inside of us and nurturing that aspect. And being able to blend like the responsibility of a conscious adult, which I also think has so many beautiful aspects to it, but then this playful, like unlimited, anything is possible, whimsical part of our child that still exists inside of us. To be able to blend those two creates, I think, a life that's worth living, where I'm not stuck in someone else's confines. And it's worth it. Definitely explore that, everybody. Inner child work is dope. It's not just a cool new age thing. It can bring your vitality back.
Yeah, I think it's also a remembrance, right? So like when I worked at the preschool and you would have art hour or whatever, and you sit a bunch of these little mischievous humans, little tiny humans down, you slap some paint in front of them and they finger paint their faces off. Like they're all artists. They're all creatives. There's not one of them that I observed who looked at me tenderly and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not creative," or "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't paint," or "No, I'm not an artist." Right? I wasn't born to be an artist like you are. It's like, no, they don't give a shit. They fill their paper with color and they grab the brush and they're having fun and they're making stuff. And then that's another example that's taught out of us, right? By life is we learn that art is risky, or we learn about expectations, or we learn about criticism, and we confuse criticism with an attack on ourself and our sovereignty. And so we hide and we tuck that part of ourselves away. And we grow up and we meet artists and it's like, wow, you're so talented. I could never do that. Or like, no, I'm not creative. It's like, bullshit. Yeah. Bullshit.
Forgotten.
I'm calling bullshit on everybody, on the whole fucking world. I'm calling bullshit.
Perfect.
Like we're creative and we create lives. Our lives are inherently works of art, and we create those every day by the choices we make, the food we eat, the relationships we have, the jobs we take, how we spend our time, the thoughts that we allow, the beliefs that we manifest. It's like you are creative inherently. If you are living and breathing in this planet right now, you're a creative being. And I think the sooner that you own that as a core part of your identity, the more pleasurable and fulfilling and profound your life will be, period.
Yeah. And empowering too, to realize, holy shit, I'm co-creating. Like I am straight up creating every moment of my life. Like for me, when I like had that aha of like, oh, nothing goes unseen or unheard. Every moment, however I am being, like the energy I'm holding myself in, the choices I'm making, the thoughts I'm having, the way I'm choosing to act, like that is creating my whole life. Like it made me do a double take of like, okay, I guess it's not like God's only watching when I'm over here, or like the universe is only paying attention when I'm doing the good shit. It's like whatever I'm doing, I'm co-creating the way that my life is going to feel and be in 5 minutes and 5 years. So that's a huge realization to come to, for sure.
Yeah, it's also one that we resist and avoid because responsibility is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And responsibility is a privilege, right? In the same way that privilege is a responsibility. And so we have the potential to radically affect our lives. And it's really confronting to accept that we are co-creating the things that we don't like.
Totally.
We're co-creating the life that's shitting on our heads occasionally, or we're co-creating the things that disappoint us, right? And so I think again, like you would know in the work that you do and the work that we do is like really accepting that responsibility is an act of liberation. Mm-hmm. It's an act of witchcraft. If you want to go deeper, it's like I said, you're creative. Another word for that is sorcery, right? Mm-hmm. We're all a bunch of fucking witches and wizards,
totally,
who are distracting ourselves from that truth while looking at other people's lives and being like, God, I wish I could do what they're doing.
Right?
I wish I had what they have.
God, what a fucking lie, man! Such a like. We've fallen asleep to a spell of forgetfulness.
Yeah. The great forgetting.
Yeah. Yep. Jeremy, I want to know about, we'll just do one, maybe the most challenging thing you've ever really moved through or you can remember moving through and how that challenge made you a better person.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've often thought about on my podcast just dropping this question on people, which is my question, my version of it is like basically what you asked me, but my version is simply, tell me about the worst day of your life.
Yeah. Okay. Right? And then follow it up with like, and then what'd you do with it?
And just like, wow, because I'm so intrigued by that. And I've like rehearsed that in my own brain. Like, what was the worst day of my life? Like, I don't know if there's one that stands out, but I mean, I've certainly moved through some stuff. Like I kind of sarcastically kid that I spent so much time on rock bottom that I rented an apartment. like if I'm gonna keep coming down here, I'd rather have somewhere comfortable that I know is my own. bought some pillows, planted some seeds. I'm like, oh, these are gonna be nice when I'm back here next time. So I mean, a few things have happened. Like growing up, my parents divorced. That was really difficult. My mom is an alcoholic, currently in recovery. So that was really a very challenging time in my life when she was in rehab and going through all of that. What else? I mean, I've been heartbroken. I've been cheated on. I've been battered and bruised, maimed, shamed. Like, right? I've like written poems about it.
It's ready for you to take it off.
Yeah. So all of that. And I mean, I think it's just all of the old cliches, right? So from or like one of my favorite poets is Khalil Gibran. He wrote a bunch of books, but one's called The Prophet. And he has this line, which is something like, the deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. And while you're going through difficult times, like when I was visiting rock bottom, my summer home, like when I was there, it didn't feel like I was being prepared for joy. It felt like I was being torn open and ripped apart, right? And I feel like it's only with perspective that I'm able to look back and relate to that quote. Like, oh, yes, I was being carved open. And when I moved through all of that gunk and muck and shame and trauma and pain, I'm able to make space. And with that newfound space, I'm able to fill that with things like gratitude, appreciation, compassion, and love. And healing is hard in my experience. I'm still going through it. I mean, I certainly have things that are, hidden in my bone marrow that are old skeletons. Like I was just writing this thing earlier about how I have like a basement in my body filled with dusty boxes of stuff that I've just been collecting. Yep. Like a real basement. You go into the garage and like pull out something and there's like just a random thing in the back. You're like, what is this thing? Looks like it's been here a long time. I don't really want to touch it. Kind of smells funny, but damn, I committed to cleaning out this garage or this basement. So
Going for it.
Here we go. And like, to continue that analogy, like it's easier if you have somebody to help you, if only to like be like, hey, I'm here. Like if you get by a snake and I'll drive you to the hospital, or like, hey, I got you. You don't have to carry this alone. Or hey, here's some paper towels. Like I'm here to clean some stuff up.
Tell me what you're seeing.
Or like best yet is like, oh, like when I cleaned out my basement, I found a box just like this. And I remember what this one felt like. And so like, I'll take like, put your right hand there, put your left hand there. And like, this is the best way to deal with this thing. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I look at healing and moving through all of those significant hardships that I described. It's about like sitting with it, creating some safety to process it, to feel through it, getting support, and just giving it a bit of time to just let it be what it needs to be. You know, I so wish that I had the 7 razzle-dazzle tips to process traumatic healing. Only $42.99 on my website, and it takes 24 hours. But in my experience, and from everything I've read, it doesn't quite work like that. But I mean, and then a bunch of those cliches, right? So from your pain comes passion, comes purpose. Mm-hmm. A lot of people in the personal development space or in the healing modality space are there because of deeply painful things that occurred in their past, and they desire to support people through those things in a way that feels easier than how it happened for them, right?
Yeah, for sure. I can attest.
Or they become comedians and try to make the whole world laugh. Yeah. Right. And so I think it's important to bear in mind that potentiality, that the thing that is completely falling apart for you or in you might actually be something that comes together at a later date. And like it might be your greatest gift. Mm-hmm. Like that divorce or that grief or that loss or that disappointment might actually be one of the most beautiful and best things to ever happen to you if given enough time and space and love.
Yeah. Support. And do you feel like that from your situations or the things that you've moved through and continue to move through, that they've really brought?
No, they're terrible things, Leela. That's a bunch of lies. No.
It's brought you great perspective. Like,
for sure. Like, for sure. I mean, and it comes with hindsight.
Right. Yes.
It's like it takes time to reflect and really own that, like, oh man, like that time that my partner cheated on me, God, I learned a lot about trust. Mm-hmm. I up-leveled maybe 6 levels of relationship school in that 6 months.
Yeah.
I learned about communication. I learned about codependency. Mm-hmm. I learned about taking radical personal responsibility for the relationship that I was creating, that I was a part of. I learned about acceptance. I learned about what's the word? I learned about tolerance, but also like what I deserve. I learned about my worthiness, right? All of that stemmed from a breakup and infidelity. So it's a crash course. It's a package deal, right? And so when my mom was struggling and nearly dying in a hospital, I learned a tremendous amount about helplessness. Mm. And I learned about surrender and the relinquishment of control to something larger than my own puny ideals. Mm. And so all of these things are powerful. Like I like to joke that I'm on a perpetual quest to collect silver linings. That was like the last sentence of a poem I wrote.
Yeah, I have that on my desk. I love that one.
Yeah, it's that. So trying to find the treasure in the trauma, so to speak. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then make use of those things.
Yeah. And then make use of them. Yeah. I think it's such a incredible perspective to take on our entire life, to just see things as like, there has to be a potency here. And I think, I didn't learn to see my life with an optimistic perspective until I moved through some hardship and then had the like hindsight, like you're saying. And then through that hindsight, I've learned to face adversity now with a totally different awareness of being able to reflect of like all that shit has created so much good in my life, like a fortitude and a passion and a like
100%.
Incredible amounts of like just character that I've been able to, pull from my past traumas and heartbreak and like just demise of certain aspects of my life that has fueled this incredible vantage point. I feel like I will never let go of when shit's hard and seemingly crumbling, there absolutely has to be something like a reason for it. And even if that's just my own making up so that I get through it, I'm fine with that. But it changes everything because I can be with the feeling of grief or the feeling of helplessness or the feeling of what the fuck is going on. And I can hang in that like no man's land, completely trusting that there will be a potent teaching or insight or PowerPoint for me to integrate into myself, so then I can also share for those that, because we also only move through our own situations and then become the only one that could share it in that way as well. Like we move through similar traumas for the most part, but we all have such unique experiences at the same time. And so our ability to translate what we've learned through our own personal lifetime becomes this unique expression for guidance as far as how we can help other people. Because you said that at one point, like many of the coaches and teachers are people who've moved through some really hard shit and just made the best of it. Like your that spoken word piece, and they've made the best of it and then been able to teach through their painful stories and share through their painful stories and pull inspiration for those that might only be able to hear it from your voice or my voice or someone's voice. And so it really it's unique, and my situations have definitely just brought me such perspective on how to look at current hardships and be able to hang in there knowing like something good is going to come for this. And it's only going to come as quick as I'm able to feel the pain of it too. Like I can't bypass it and just go like, can't wait for the lesson. That shit. I've also tried to do that. And that doesn't work. That just makes me like fly back to the beginning of it again and be like, you didn't really get it. So you're going to have to go back down to rock bottom, check back into your apartment, bring another pillow with you.
I feel like those are scabs, not scars. Right. It's like the bypass version is, it's a scab, not a scar. Mm-hmm. And so your scars are your superpowers,
right?
Like from your scars, you can create, you can relate, you can inspire, you can share, etc. From your scab, you're like trying to do that, but then also life will just like rip it off and there's still the wound, right? It's like, damn it.
Need more
and
time.
Also I just wanted to offer that everything that I've said so far on this podcast that I would have completely hated about 10 years ago. The
goal of the podcast is to piss everyone off. So
I would have like listened to this fucking man bun having, nose ring wearing, light and fluffy, philosophical dude and been like, bro, you don't know anything. Like none of this makes sense because I'm in so much pain and I'm so confused and I'm so angry and I completely lacked the knowledge, skills, and abilities to process or even begin to understand what I was going through. That everything that I've said so far, I would have been like, okay, but like, how? That doesn't make any sense. Like I understand that conceptually, but my lived experience suggests that you are a fucking nutcase. Like, and I would have just thrown it all away, right? And so I offer that just with a bit of humility and understanding that, like, when you're in it, like when you're in the wound, talk of scars is completely, you might as well be speaking Latin or speaking in the ways that humpback whales communicate. It's like it just doesn't land, right?
Yeah.
So if you are feeling some of that, like my heart goes out to you, and and like I'm right. Like it like it does get better. And I assure you that that what I'm saying has been true for me and true for a lot of people and true for a lot of books that I've read. And I think what I'm suggesting is to maintain cautious optimism at all times, if possible.
Yeah.
And to just cultivate this little spark inside that suggests a possibility may exist for things to be radically different for you than they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And to like just pay attention to that little spark in the dark.
Right. I was in Peru recently, and I was sitting in this beautiful plant medicine ceremony with this shaman, and she did this gorgeous opening and closing of these circles. And during one of them, the ceremonies are done at night, and she was offering this immense gratitude to life and to plant medicine and to the great spirit and And then she said, thank you to the darkness. Thank you to the darkness. I have goosebumps saying it. Thank you to the darkness. And I remember just starting crying because I was like, where is she going with that? So thank you to the darkness, because in the darkness is where we learn to light our own light from within. And I was like, ooh, thank you. Yes, thank you to the darkness. And it like just affected me. I felt like the flame that was inside of me got like a little bit brighter to hear that, because it made me recognize how much potency is there in those dark times. Like that is where all new life is fostered and nurtured, and the ability to plant any possibility, or like the plantation for any possibility is available only in the darkness, and only in that like damp, fertile soil can anything new grow. And so there's, depending on the way that we look at our pain in those dark caverns that we sit in, it can either be somewhere where we're never coming out of, or the land of unlimited possibility. And it's just, those are one step from each other, just depending on where we've decided we want our heart to be sitting. And even just a moment of adjusting our mindset or our heart set towards believing that something good could come from such darkness is enough to fuel that light to eventually burn brighter. And so it just takes a moment to practice. Like, I'm just going to pretend for a moment that I believe that shit could be different. Even if it's just 30 seconds and I don't even believe it totally, I'm going to breathe it and act like I do. That's at least enough of training the muscle, because we're every moment of our life really exercising a certain perspective or mental musculature or heart muscle of how we want to see and engage with our life. And it does take work and effort to be present and conscious enough to notice, where am I fueling inside of me? Am I fueling the part of me that feels like I'll never get out of this, or the part of me that feels like maybe I could? And choosing at least to spend some time in each area, no matter how far down we've gotten.
Like one thing I've considered is on your assertion about darkness is that, like, on the darkest night where there's no moon, like on the darkest night, if I go in the darkest room of my house, if I go in the darkest place I know, I can still see. Like, my eyes will adjust. I could put my hand in front of my face and I could still make out a bit of contrast, right? And what I mean by that is that no matter the darkness, there's always light. Like, there's always some amount of light present that affords you the ability to see minimally. If you can't remember that, you're going to be in a very dark place. Right?
Yeah.
But I've always been inspired by that, of how our eyes can adjust, and how, like, there's always light somewhere, basically. Like, the light is always present somewhere.
Yeah.
And like that, even for half the day, like, the sun gets lost in the dark, right? That the light disappears for half the day, and how inspiring that is. And it's like a nice reminder that that's just the natural order of thing. It gets dark, and then guess what? It gets light again.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's dark, and then guess what? It gets light again.
Yeah.
And that even like on the darkest, I experienced this on an airplane a couple times where it's like the darkest, most terrible weather, and the wind is blowing and gusting and howling, and the rain is just absolutely shitting down, and there's lightning. And then you get on the airplane and you just like fly up and up and up. And then eventually you get through the cloud and it's blue sky and sunshine. And I was like, oh my gosh, the sun is always out. Like
Somewhere.
Like somewhere.
Yeah.
Even when I am experiencing tremendous rainstorms and dark clouds and storms, the sun is always out. Like there is light behind all of that stuff. And so for me, that was a helpful kind of moment in the clouds where I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. What? A lot of realizations come on airplanes.
We just blasted right through that storm in like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
What? Oh my gosh, it's so nice up here.
Yeah.
Why don't I always, what?
Yeah. I was watching the sunrise, or maybe it was setting, when I was in the Bahamas this spring, and I just like realized in a moment, like every moment of life, there's a sunset or sunrise happening somewhere, always. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds slightly dumb, but in a moment I was like, oh, duh, it's always happening.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
You want to talk about slightly dumb things that I try to mention every time I'm on a podcast?
Go for it. I know what it is.
Half the world is standing upside down right now.
I know. Are you fucking kidding me? Like,
we don't talk about this enough. Half the world is upside down. If you think about the other side of the sphere, not only is it dark where you're experiencing light, or light where you're experiencing dark, but there are people standing upside down. If you zoom, but nobody realizes that they're standing upside down. What the fuck is going on in the universe, Leela? So I just need to try to drop that in for some perspective shifts.
I'm just saying. And yeah, my like perspective of that sunrise sunset thing was like, to me, when I watch the sunset, it's just this like, glory filled, like goodbye, the gorgeous day, like, wow, what a closure, and then I watch the sunrise and it's like this freshness, this like newness, this unlimited possibility. And in that moment, I just downloaded like both those are always happening at all times somewhere. It's like
wow. A waterfall.
It was like a fucking waterfall. I'm like, man, most of us, I feel like, are just walking around. And I'll steal this to one of my clients. I thought it was hysterical the way she said, she's like, I feel like I'm just like smushing my face up against the glass. And I just need, what you just explained was like, I just need to like back up to see things. I'm like, exactly. Like most of us are just smashing our faces against the glass of life, of our own life, and going like, give me something better. Or like, what the fuck's going on here? And usually everything we need to know is found with just like backing up and like cleaning off the glass, and then just choosing to realize like, or choosing to see how much is really going on here and what we're actually a part of. One of my other
or like having someone point out like, you're smushed against the glass. You're like, what's glass? Like that thing that's smushing against your face, like the glass exists. Like if you step back, you'll be able to see it. It's actually part of a door. Like there's
a door, a handle. Yeah. You can walk through it.
Yeah.
The rest of your life is on the other side.
Ever have that with like a fly that is annoying you that just keeps smashing against the glass, but of 1 foot to the right is like a wide open space? It's like, bro, just zoom. Like I try to like life coach flies sometimes. Right. Like, how's that going for you, Mr. Fly? Like, you've tried that 40 times.
Yeah, I see myself in those flies. Every time I'm like, God, I've done that. And I empathize and I can feel it.
Is there any other way to approach this situation, Mr. Fly?
This way.
Pause for a moment and have a look around, maybe,
Yep. And I was gonna suggest, or like bring in, I love your analogy of like the basement and someone going down there with you to be like, all right, put your right hand here and left hand here. And I've done that before. And I know for me, on my path of moving out of the darkness and revisiting it again, and moving out of the darkness to revisiting again, is like, we're not meant to do that shit alone. Whether you hire a coach I don't care, a therapist, I don't care, get into a community, I don't care, any option where you feel nurtured and held and supported, where people can hear you and give guidance that's emotionally sound and unbiased and can provide you perspective, can help you peel your face off the glass and possibly see another way to do things, and you trust that they have your best interest in mind. Get around those people. Like, that is just such a essential piece of healing and waking up, living a better life, is to not do it alone. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think that's perhaps a better explanation of why a lot of us are in this work, because we have felt like in our past or in our own pain or healing journey that we were doing it alone, or that we struggled perhaps a little bit too long, or we didn't take as efficient a route as we could have. And
absolutely,
I feel like another analogy I've heard that I like is kind of like, if you feel like you're stuck in a hole, so to speak, in your life, and you're looking up and the hole is just so tall and there's no way to get out, you've been there for so long, and then you get in a community, or you listen to a podcast or read a book, or you hire a coach or therapist, and the person is like at the top of the hole and is like, hey, there's a ladder to your left. Like, put your hand on the rung. Yes, good. Now put your right foot on. And like, they're kind of informing you first and foremost that there exists a way out of what you're dealing with. And they've gone through it and they know enough about it that they can help you to navigate that path as easily as possible. And I feel like when I was joking about owning property at rock bottom, now I own it. I previously I was just renting. Now I own it,
because every once in a while you got to go.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to invest because, but like I know the streets. Like I know the ways in. I know the ways out. I'm familiar with the mayor. Like I know where the cemetery is. I know where the bodies are buried. Right, and so for me, I feel like because of those experiences, when I visited that place, I have a tremendous compassion and ability and experience to help others navigate that. Right. And even just in the way I describe it, making it somewhat lighthearted and playful, as I tend to do with things, is helpful. Of like, oh, bro, like you're rock bottom, like may as well buy some property. You're gonna be there a minute. You're probably it's not gonna be your first trip. Like it's not just a one-time deal, right? And so bringing a bit of levity to healing, I think, is important.
Absolutely.
And serves as a reminder that it's not this like dark and stormy path that so many of us believe it to be. Like at times it may feel like that, but as you suggest, when you have a guide or a Sherpa or someone who's walked the path before, or that can help you along that journey, I think it's a really wonderful thing to experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And there is so much, I think, having a humorous, lighthearted grip on myself, my own process, the process of life altogether has been hugely impactful for me, because shit does feel heavy and hard sometimes. And I pull on my ability to see things from different angles and make analogies and remember people are standing upside down on the other side. And it's helpful. It's helpful to me. It could be. If you haven't tried the humor route, add it in, sprinkle it in a little bit. To me, that's also like my childlike or like whimsical aspect, because I was like that as a kid. And to have reignited or given permission for that piece to still be part of my life as an adult definitely helps me shift and change things up, so that I don't fear approaching the dungeons of my life, or the rock bottoms if they need to be there. I know I can make it through. Yeah.
It's like a notch in the belt.
Yeah.
Oh, been there, done that. Oh, there. Yeah. Hello, darkness, my old friend. It's all of that. Right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I have one last question for you. Well, it's two questions, but it's just kind of quick. First one is, if people listening could stop doing 3 things to make their life better or make, help them live a happier life, what would those 3 things be? Stop doing.
Stop doing. Wow. My brain goes to like the start doing. So that's
I know. I want to do stop first. I mean, we're going to move into start too, but
all right.
We're going to do both.
So I ruined the second question.
That's okay. We'll go whichever angle you want.
Stop. Oh gosh, this is just going to be me projecting, I'm sure. Stop as a stop.
Or things that you've stopped.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think like big picture humanity. This is a good question.
Okay.
Stop forgetting that you are not an integral and unique part of everything that is going on right now. Like in other words, stop forgetting that you matter. Right. So that's one. Stop. Oh gosh, what would it be? Stop.
Like simple things.
Stop neglecting the temple of your body, including your desires, dreams, and holy wants. Like stop neglecting yourself, right? So that's one. And then a third one, stop, how do I phrase this? Like, stop being unkind. It's like, stop for a moment and fucking breathe and remember that everybody is, that word Sonder is the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. And so when you remember that, stop being an asshole is what I'm saying.
I almost interjected, but I was like, I'm not going to do that unless you mention it. Stop being an asshole. That would be great.
Stop and like literally stop before you're going to say something. Cultivate a pause between your reactive response and like your higher self. Just like stop. Just stop. That would be one for me. Like just stop. Stop and look around. Stop and fucking breathe. Stop and take this in. Stop and remember that you're going to die one day. Just stop. Just stop. Stop it. And just stop. That's it. That would have been my easiest answer. It's like, just stop it and stop moving.
You're like, so what you want people to start doing is stopping?
Yeah, I want people to start stopping.
That's your first start, is to stop before you do anything.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good one. We need to just start stopping more.
We do.
Yeah, so start sleeping. Sleep is undervalued and underappreciated, but scientifically proven to be vital and transformative. So like start sleeping, like start taking care of yourself. Start prioritizing yourself. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Start drinking water. Start eating vegetables. Like start treating yourself like you matter. That's like a bunch of start. I've gone way over 3 on each of these. But,
fantastic. I love them.
That's one. Start being kinder to yourself and others. And you know what would have been a good one is like that journey line about don't stop believing. They'd be like, start believing, like start cultivating curiosity and start practicing imagination and start reclaiming your gosh, what's the word? Start reclaiming your life.
Yeah.
Right? Like start believing in yourself. Start practicing the person that you want to be.
Yeah.
Like just start though. Don't overthink it. Like just start. So we need people to start stopping, and we need people to stop from starting. Like just start.
We ended this on a high note, I think.
Yeah. Start stopping and stop starting.
Yeah. Yep.
Did I say that right? Start stopping and stop yourself from starting.
Not stopping yourself from starting.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Pausing and then going.
Yeah. Start doing some shit.
Yeah. And remember that you matter. I love that point of like, one of my other Peru take homes was realizing like, oh man, I've spent so much time trying to be like individually super important to my ego. And then realizing that in that I've actually made myself like not powerful, but in my like dissolving of the ego and remembering I'm part of something important makes me actually truly powerful. And so there's like an element of remembering my place amongst things so that I can start less self-important. And I remember that I am part of something important. And that has given me motivation to start doing much more and to stop doing the shit that isn't contributing to the wellness of the world.
Yeah, like another way to phrase that perhaps would be stop forgetting where you came from and start remembering that you need to be a good ancestor.
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
Truly.
Like, stop fucking all this up.
Yeah.
Start taking this serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't forget to laugh.
Accountable. Yeah. Laugh, hold yourself accountable. We went kind of everywhere. If you got something from this.
Yeah, I mean, if you're still listening to this, whew, you done good. If you're still here, whew, well done.
Jeremy, is there anything that you want to tell our people about? Anything that you have going on or coming up or that you're into or something that we can do to support your mission?
Well, if somehow, by the grace of God, you're still listening to my voice right now, I do have a podcast with 130 episodes. Leela's been on it. That's called the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I also write a lot. I'm on Instagram at Long Distance Love Bombs. I have a book called It'll Be Okay and You Will Be Too. And I do individual and group coaching. One thing that's new that I haven't quite announced yet that I'm considering is my partner Kendra Dachi and I do group coaching together, but we're thinking about doing a couples.
Oh,
yeah, like a 4-6 week little couples, not like a therapy dark and stormy thing, but like hey, let's inject a little bit of a kick in the butt for your relationship kind of thing.
Yeah,
and talk about communication and intimacy and relationship stuff.
I love that.
So we're leaning into that. So we currently run a thing that's called Jeremy and Kendra's 12-week coaching thing.
Nice. Great name. It's a great name.
That was like the work. It was like the working title, and it just stood. We might do a Jeremy and Kendra's 6-week couples thing.
Yeah, perfect.
So keep an eye out for that. What else? Yeah, we have a retreat coming up in Costa Rica over New Year's Eve and into January, the first little bit of January. That's unbelievable that we did 2 years ago. And we're getting the band back together with our mutual pal, Traver Bohm. And so that's a 7-day, 6-night retreat with workshops and zip lining and forests and breath work and waterfalls and organic food. And the last time we ran it, a woman got a tattoo to remember it by, and 2 of the participants fell in love and now live together. And, that I'm really looking forward to. That's one of the best weeks of the year for sure.
I'm looking forward to that too.
Come hang out with Leela and I in real life.
Yeah.
And what else? I think that's it.
Fantastic.
Did I forget anything about me?
I don't know. I'm excited to hear this other book that you really care about. So launch that shit into the world once you nurture it into fruition.
That's another podcast.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate you so much, Jeremy. Thank you. I love what you do.
I love you. And I'm so honored to be here, truly. And you're such a shiny gem of a person. And it's been fun to witness your transformation and journey over the last several years. And I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You're doing good. You're doing really good. And and I'm glad to be your friend.
I'm humbled, truly. Thank you. This was lovely. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure.
Adios.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. This is Leela Dilla, and I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Heart Space Podcast. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Please visit leeladilla.com to check out the courses, retreats, or other deep dives that I have coming up. And remember, if you are a woman looking for a place to learn, expand, and awaken to your highest potential, I'd absolutely love to have you as a part of my women's community, the Heart Space. Offering yoga classes every month, meditations, breathwork, wisdom workshops, sacred ritual, and all things feminine healing. I would love to have you as a part of our tribe. If you're interested in this, please visit leeladilla.com/the-heart-space. Sending you massive love and gratitude. Catch you on the flip side. Namaste.